Hello humans, it's just Martine, and it's time to recap 2024 and look towards 2025. And by towards, I mean at, because it's here, it's been here. I think this is going to be more of an introspective video. Usually when I make goal videos, I sit down, I write out a list, and then I share that list with you. Not this time. I've obviously thought about what I want this year to look like, but I don't think I've written things down, and I definitely haven't really planned out this video. I think it's going to be more just a chatty time, you and me, talking about last year and this year and all of the things. For some context, I'm a third-year graduate student studying legal psychology, and I read a lot of books and I make silly little videos. That's me. So what did that mean in 2024? Reading-wise, I had kind of a crazy reading year. Before I share my number, I just always want to preface it by saying I love a short book. I read many a short book. I still did read an insane amount last year, but it's maybe not quite as insane as the number of books makes it sound, because I read 384 books in 2024, which is also less than I read in 2023, which is probably good for me, but is still a lot. I read 384 books, and I don't intend that as a brag, because I think the reality of my reading is just that I have a lot of alone time. And I'll get into that in a second, what that really means, but I'm alone in this apartment, and I live in a very big place where it is hard to get transportation to see friends in person. And I also don't have that many friends here. I have friends all over the place. I have you all, but I don't have many people here with me, especially that I can get to easily. So I honestly just spend a lot of time in this room by myself. And that's fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing about my life. It's just a reality. And so don't be comparing your busy schedule with the amount that I read, because I just spend a lot of my time doing that. So anyway, a couple more fun facts about my reading for last year, and then we'll talk about this year and all of the thoughts that are in my head right now. I mentioned that I love a short book, so reading 384 books, what does that actually mean? It means I read 115,296 pages. So if you were wondering, my average book length was 300.25 pages. Obviously, even though I read lots of small books, I read plenty of big ones to bump that average up. I did not know that the average would be at 300. That's kind of satisfying. I largely read books through my library. I read 244 books from my library, which saved me a ton of money. I say saved as if I would have actually spent that money. I wouldn't have, but regardless, my library savings for last year were $3,812.48. Nailed it. I largely read ebooks, so I just read library ebooks. And that's the gist of it. I also spent, 1,274.653 hours reading. So that's a lot of time reading. That's almost 3.5 hours of reading per day, which is a little concerning, but that's okay. The point is, I read a lot. And I read some great books and I read some not great books, and that's life. But what does that mean for 2025? A couple of things. So if you've been around here long enough, you know that regardless of how much I read, I always set my Goodreads goal at 52 books for the year. And even once I hit that, I don't move it up. It stays at 52 and I just celebrate myself. There may be a year where 52 books is all I reach or out of reach, and that's fine. I don't feel like that will be this year, but it could happen. And so I always want to set myself up to be realistic and realize that a book a week is still an insane amount of reading. I want to be reading because it's fun and because I enjoy it, instead of because I feel this pressure from a number like that. The excess books I read, I want them to be because I want to read them, not because I'm reaching for the next goal and the next goal and the next. It's really easy to do that in life and just get to a place of accomplishment and then say, that's not good enough, let's do more. And I don't want that for myself. I want to set a reasonable goal for me and reach it and say, hooray, and then live my life. It's a gloomy day outside, which I do not think is helping my energy, but I also feel like I have this mindset that when I'm filming, I have to be my most energetic self, my most interesting self, my best self. I feel like a lot of people who make content feel that way. I feel like people just feel that way, period, in life. And one of the things I want to be better and more intentional about this year is sharing I don't want to say I want to be better at sharing like the real me, because I have been sharing the real me. But right now I feel like there are barriers to filming and barriers to making content that are a lot about what goes on in my head, about how I need to present on camera and all of those things. Especially as a person who has to sit there and edit myself, like I think a lot about what am I about to make myself sit and watch over and over again to edit it. But I want to kind of step back and do that less and make things because it is fun and because I feel called to share it and just because it is. My channel is largely about books, but it doesn't have a bookish name of any kind. Like it's not Martine's Reading or anything like that, and that will never change. It's just Martine, because I want this channel to be a reflection of me. And so that usually means we're talking a lot about books, but that doesn't always have to mean we're talking about books. And it also doesn't mean I have to show up in a specific way. I just have to show up as Martine. And that is enough. And that's something that I don't just want to practice on my channel this year, but like in general. Even when I was planning this video, I was like, oh, I should move my camera around the room and have different angles and talk to them about things and make it punchy. And that's fun to do sometimes, but that's not the kind of video I feel like filming today. And coming to grips with the fact that like that's okay, and I can just share this time and be like I'm on FaceTime with you with a fancy little microphone and chat, and that's good enough. That's a mindset I'm working on. Here's another thing that I've been thinking about recently. I realized over the past few weeks that I like spending time by myself, but I'm not the best at spending time with myself. You're probably like, Martine, those are synonyms. Means the same thing. But in my mind, they feel very separate right now. To do something by yourself is to do something with no one else around. To do something with yourself is to be intentionally present with yourself, to meet yourself as if you are another person. When I am with somebody else, I pay attention to them, I listen, I ask questions, I'm present. When I am with myself, I don't really do those things. And I'm not sure how common it is that people do, but it's something that I would really like to get better at, because I deserve that intentionality from myself. And so I've been challenging myself every day to do something fun with myself. Sometimes that involves being with other people as well, and sometimes it doesn't. I think you can be with yourself and with other people at the same time, as long as you're being intentional about yourself. The real challenges come when I'm with myself and by myself. So I'm working on that a lot. I've been exploring and reading less. This week is a bad example because I've been doing a 3-hour-a-day reading challenge, but other than that, I've been reading less. I've just showed up for myself more, and I want to continue to do that because I don't think I'm perfect at it yet. Not that perfection is like an attainable thing, but regardless, I just want to get better at it. I don't know what that means for my reading, because I've realized that reading in a lot of ways is a way that I get to enjoy time by myself without having to face time with myself. In books, you can escape to other places and you can interact with other people without having to say anything or have them judge you in any way. And in some ways, it's an introspective exercise because you're like applying things to your life and all that, but it's really a way to detach myself from reality a lot of times. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing all the time. I think I get lots and lots of valuable things from reading, right? I read not just to escape, but to learn, to understand other people, to empathize with other people, to see myself reflected in the greater world. I read for lots and lots of reasons, but I don't want to read just to escape. And I fear that that's what I did a lot in the past few years, because I was afraid of spending time with myself. And maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm overthinking this, but it's just something that I want to challenge myself to think about this year. The same way that I think like you can make a good choice to watch a bunch of TV, you can also make a bad choice to watch a bunch of TV. So like the other weekend, I very mindfully with myself was like, I want to watch a season of a reality television show. And I asked myself like, why? And all of those things. And at the end of the day, I decided, I think this is good. You've earned it, go with it. But I wanted to check with myself first to be like, well, are you just trying to ignore like your life? And it's not that escapism is bad, it's just something I think I rely on a lot. And so I think at least checking in with myself, whether it's with TV or reading, and being like, hey, why are you doing this, is important for me this year. Because even though the world can be painful, it can be beautiful too. I think it's really easy to divorce yourself from the pain of the world, but that means you divorce yourself from the beauty as well. And I don't want to do that. I feel like this all sounds like sadder than it is. This has not been like a sad revelation for me, and I have not been sad really. I just haven't really showed up for myself in the ways that I know I'm capable of and that I want to be there for myself. And that doesn't mean my silly little videos will go anywhere and I'll still do crazy reading challenges and all those things. I just really want to be intentional. That's the point of this, right? It's not about stopping things or starting things. It's about being intentional with the things that I am doing. That's what I want. And it's something that I've wanted to work on and have been working on over the past few years, but I think this is just the next step in it. I've wanted to be more intentional with work. I've wanted to be more intentional with friends. There has to come a moment where you realize you have to be intentional with yourself too. And that's the moment that I'm at, I think. So that's my focus for 2025. And again, intentionality with yourself is not about solitude. Sometimes being intentional with myself is realizing I really need to talk to a friend right now and forcing myself to reach out even though it's hard. Sometimes being intentional with myself is forcing myself into social situations that make me uncomfortable so that I can try and get community that I need. But sometimes being intentional with yourself is just sitting and thinking about yourself and thinking about your self-talk and asking yourself why you're doing certain things. It looks so different from moment to moment and person to person. There's no one right way to do it. And that's the difficult thing about life is like there are no right ways most of the time. There are just ways. There are pros, there are cons, but like right, not so much. That's the idea for this year. And if you watched my celebrity recommendation video for 12 TBRs, you know that Angels in America has been living in my head rent-free for months now, since September. And it's still living there rent-free. I'm not picking an individual word for this year, although maybe intention is a good one, or with, but regardless, I'm picking a phrase, which is so dramatic because it's 2 words, you know, but I guess 2 words, that's a phrase. So my phrase for this year is more life. Whatever that means to me. I just want to challenge myself to show up and try and be here now. I don't know if this is the most somber or like melancholy goals video you've ever seen, but regardless, it's just how I've been feeling lately. And I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this too. Do you feel like there's a difference between being by or with yourself? My therapist was confused when I brought it up. I think that's all for today though. More in the future. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Do you have a word of the year? How's the start of your 2025 been? Oh my goodness. It's 2025. And subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye.